Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Professor Rich, and today we're going to talk about articles in English. Articles are an area of grammar you learn quite early on when you're learning English. However, to quote the great Michael Swan, I forgot the quote. Articles are one of the most difficult areas of English grammar, even for advanced learners. I don't think that's the exact quote, but something like that. So first, I will teach you about articles. So we'll be doing like a lecture style format of class today. I'll teach you everything about articles in English. And I want you to take notes. I'm asking you, take notes while I teach you about articles. Then we will practice together. And here, you should write your answers down on a piece of paper and pause the video, or type your answers into the live chat. And hello to everyone in the live chat right now. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. All right, let us begin. So when we're talking about articles, we are talking actually about three words: the, a, and an. And actually, a and an are basically the same word. It's just that we use an when the sound of the next word begins with a vowel. So, for example, we say a cat or a man, but we'd say an honorable man, because the word honorable begins with the sound o, which is a vowel sound. That word begins with the letter H because it's honor spelt with H. However, the letter doesn't matter. It's about the sound. So when the next word begins with a vowel sound, we use an. Essentially, other than that, a and an are exactly the same thing. So we could say with articles, actually, we're talking about two words. And that's how Swan puts it, actually. He calls them two words. The, as in the definite article, and an, as in the indefinite article. The other choice we have with articles is to put no article. So we actually, although we have two words, we have three options: the, an, and no article. And the question is, how do we know when to make those choices? And you will notice that in English, it's not necessarily the same as it is in your language. So when you use the translation of the in your language, you may find that the use is different to how we use it in our language. In our language, in English. Okay, let's move on. So, when talking about one thing or a group known to both the speaker and listener, we can use the. The class is interesting today, isn't it? What am I talking about? I'm talking about this class. You know it, I know it, and there is one of them. Let me say that again. There is one class. You know the class. I know the class. So I say the class, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm the teacher today. I'm the teacher. In this context, you know what I'm talking about. You know I mean the teacher of the class. And also there is one teacher. So I can use it again. One teacher, and there is only one, and you know it, and I know it, and I can say, I'm the teacher today. So other things we might say with the, we could talk about the world. What do I mean with the world? Well, you know what I mean, I know what I mean, and there is one world, and so we can say the world. So that's the kind of big way, the main way that we use the definite article. Let me take a drink of coffee. So, when introducing an unknown item to the listener or talking about one of many, we use a or an. Notice they are two different things there. So, there's one idea. When we introduce something new that you don't know about, then I use a, because I'm introducing something new. You don't know it. It's new to you, and so I'm going to use a. However, we can also use a to mean one of many. Even though it's something that is known, I'm not necessarily introducing it, but it's one of many. So a also has this idea of one of many. And here's some examples. He has a cat. Have you seen it? I'm introducing this, a cat. You don't know he has a cat, so I'm saying he has a cat. I'm introducing a new singular thing. I need a pen. Do you have one? I need a pen. Introducing the idea that I need something. It's a new thing. You don't know about it. And so I'm saying that I need a pen. You are a good student. Now, in this case, it's less about introducing this new idea. In this case, it's more about saying one of many. You are a good student. You're one of many good students. You're a good student. You're not the one and only good student. You are a good student, one of many good students. Okay? So these are the main times that we use the indefinite article, the main times when we use a or an. Are you taking notes? Remember, I told you, take notes. Take your notepad, take a pen, and start taking notes. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, this is a great time to smash that like button and hit subscribe. However, you will find there are many exceptions with articles, and I still have quite a lot to lecture to you about this, so keep going with your notes. However, when using an uncountable noun or plural noun in this way, and that is introducing unknown items, like he has a cat, but when we're talking about uncountable nouns or plural nouns, we use no article or some. So I have milk. I have some milk. Why? Because milk is uncountable, so we don't use the indefinite article. We don't use a or an because milk is uncountable. The next one, we hired construction workers. We hired some construction workers. Construction workers is plural. It's not singular, so we don't use a or an for construction workers. We use no article or some. Here is a very common mistake which non-native speakers do quite a lot. So this is a very common mistake in English learners. We do not use the to say all or any. So we don't say, I love the chocolate, to say all chocolate. That's not correct in English. In English, you say, I love chocolate, no article. And that means all kinds, all types of chocolate. I study philosophy. And that means not a specific philosophy, not ancient Greek philosophy, not Nietzschean philosophy, not British liberal philosophy. I study philosophy, all types of philosophy. Notice, no definite article. That's a super common mistake by English learners. You may also say that this is talking in general, that when we are talking in general, we don't use the. Well done, Sleepwalker. Sleepwalker is on the ball with grammar. We don't use the with names. You can also call these pronouns? No. Proper nouns. You can also call these proper nouns. So we don't use the with names. I love God. Not the God, but God. Because God here is a name. I live in England. England is the name of the country. My name is Rich. It's my name. It's not my name is the Rich or I am the Rich. No, because it's a proper noun. We're talking about a name and we don't use the when we're expressing names. However, there's exceptions to this one. Are you ready? Remember, I told you with articles there are many exceptions, and for this one, there are exceptions. So, let's take a look at the exceptions. Unless the name contains an everyday noun. So, I like the King of England. So, why here do we use the definite article? It's because of the word king. Because king is an everyday noun. It's not a proper noun. And so now we do use the definite article for the name of someone. And here, I live in the United States. It's the name of a country. But notice we have an everyday noun. States. States is not a name. And so now we use the definite article. This is the River Mersey. River is an everyday noun. And so although the River Mersey is the name, the proper noun, the name of a place, we use the definite article because it contains the word river. All right? So that's one exception. And here's a load of other exceptions which drive students insane. So we also use the if it's a river, mountain range, sea, desert, or island group. And there are others. Welcome to English. So I don't recommend necessarily learning all the rules about using the definite article for names of places. It doesn't particularly matter that much, but you should at least just be aware that there are many exceptions. So there are many times when we have the name of something and we use the for some weird reason. There's not really any logic to this, by the way. It's just how the language is. So we got the Thames, which means the river, the Andes, which is the mountain range, or the British Isles, which is the island range. Island range? Now, this is where I think most of my students have difficulty. So when you get to like upper intermediate, advanced level, I think this is where my students have most difficulty. Just look at that and read it for a moment while I have a drink of coffee. So, for upper intermediate and advanced students, one of the big decisions often they need to make, or you need to make, about between the and no article is deciding between a specific known group or a general category. This is the question which comes up for my students the most. So when do I say, for example, when do I say the people of Spain, and when do I say Spanish people? Right? Something like that. Or when do I say the students or just students? How do I decide between the students and students, for example? Like, oh, I love this place. The students are great. Or, I love university. Students are great. Both of those sentences are fine. But the question is, how do you decide? How do you decide when to use the, when to use no article? Well, we use the to have our context focus on a specific known group, and we use no article to have the context focus on the whole category. So if you think about it like specific groups and categories, then it helps. Look at my hand gestures here. Specific groups versus categories. Specific groups, we have a circle drawn around the specific group versus categories. So specific groups is the. When it's a known specific group, we say the students, the known specific group of students, the group of students I know and you know, and I say the, and then you understand, I mean the students, this group, versus students. And students is anyone, anything which fits in the category of student, anything in existence that fits in the category of students. So this is the real big distinction. This part of the video is probably the most important video for most people watching. If you can understand this, you can really start to understand about the definite article versus no article. Another important point, article choice is less about material reality, let's put that in bold, and it's more about our contextual focus. The important thing here is, when I say the or I don't say the, I'm not trying to argue with you about philosophy. I'm not trying to argue about actual reality. What I'm doing is I'm presenting a contextual focus. So some people will argue that, oh, in this case, we must use the, or in this case, we must use no article because this is a specific group or this is a general category. But the thing is, it's not up to them, it's up to you. You are the speaker, and so you decide what the contextual focus is of what you are saying. So when you decide between using the or no article, it's your decision about, are you putting the contextual focus on the specific group or the general category? We don't need to argue about actual reality. That doesn't matter because it's all about the presentation of your communication within the context that you decide. So that's what articles are about. You're setting the context. You're saying the known group, or you're saying anything in this category. So read this. In other words, you must use your own decision. Do you wish to present something as any type, one of many, a singular new unknown, or the one and only known? This is often most important when deciding between a general category, no article, or a specific group, the. And that's exactly what we see here. So, to make my point, take a look at these sentences. I've been to France. I love the coffee. I love France because I love coffee. Now, in this case, we could argue about what the material reality is of coffee and what exactly we're talking about and so on and so on. That doesn't matter. The point is, in this one, the speaker wants you to know that they've been to France and they love the specific known group of coffee, which in this case, from the context, we know that they mean French coffee. The specific group of coffee that we can call French coffee. which, by the way, French coffee is also a general category. So I can say, I've been to France, I love the coffee, or I've been to France, I love French coffee. Those sentences mean exactly the same thing. In one, we use the definite article, and in the other, we use a little adjective to make our general category. But the actual real world things that we refer to are the same. In the second one, I love France because I love coffee with no article. I love everything within the general category of coffee. So of course I love France. And the implication here is France has good coffee. Notice the importance here is not about material reality. It's a question of contextual focus. By the way, this lesson goes beyond articles. If you can start to understand what I mean about contextual focus, you really start to get an idea of what language is all about. In classes, often students will argue with each other about what is correct or not, and they will draw arguments from material reality. So they'll say, oh, that's not the case because of this fact. But that's not how language works. Language is not correct or incorrect based on the facts of reality. Language is correct or incorrect based on what the speaker really wants to say. So making a mistake, it's only a mistake if it doesn't reflect your intention. It doesn't matter about the material reality. It's all about the intention of the speaker. And if what you say really reflects your intention, then it is correct. And I have seen it many, many times in English classes where students will argue about material reality, and after 30 minutes of arguing, they realize the original sentence was not a mistake. It was just that the speaker was trying to say something different than what the other student realized. So the other student interpreted that this student made a mistake and was trying to say something else. But actually, this student didn't make a mistake. It's just that they were trying to say something different than the listener thought. And that's what I mean by contextual focus. All right. So we're going to do some practice, and this is an example. All right, so look at the example here. Topic, free time. Example, I often play games. Game I like the most is called Space Invaders. It is game about shooting aliens. In this case, we have the three gaps and moo. And you have to decide whether for each of these gaps you have to put a, an, the, or no article. And you can see the answer here. And this is how I want you to write or type your answers. So we have no article for the first one. We have the for the second. And we have a for the third. And notice the little slashes here. Okay, that's just a nice way of saying that's the first one, that's the second one, and that's the third one. Okay, so take a look at that so you understand how to do these exercises. And then I'm going to show you some practice. For those of you watching this video later, you can pause the video, take some time to look at that and understand it. Take yourself a little notepad here. Get yourself a notepad, little notepad like this. Get yourself a pen, preferably a lovely classic fountain pen like that. And it's really nice to write with a fountain pen, by the way. I do highly recommend it. There is something lovely about fountain pens. Your writing just gets better if you use fountain pens. So take your notepad and get ready to do the exercises. Are we ready, everybody? And hello to the other folks who've shown up. Hello, Zoya. Hello, Granit. Hello, Julia. And please do smash that like button. All right. Should we do some practice? So the topic is education. And you can see those sentences on the screen now. So take a look at those and type your answers in the chat, or if you're watching this video later, you can pause the video now and try to do those. I'm going to have a drink of coffee. So I will read these sentences, and where there is a gap, I will say blank. This is for people who are listening and not watching the video, so they can also do the exercises. I had blank test this morning, and I think I did well. After blank test, blank teacher gave us blank feedback right away. Number 2, she wants to become blank engineer, but she also enjoys blank art. She's taking blank course in design this semester. Number 3, we arrived late to blank class and missed blank first 10 minutes. It's not easy to understand everything when you miss blank beginning. Number 4, blank education in my country is free for all children. I think blank system helps people get equal chances. Should we have some background music? Okay, the answers to those are coming in about 30 seconds, and I will go through these with you. In some cases, there are multiple answers. And why are there multiple answers? In some cases, well, it's because, as I said before, this depends on the intention of the speaker. It depends on the contextual focus that the speaker wants to present, and therefore, because these sentences can actually be presented with different intentions, then of course that means there are sometimes multiple options, because there's different ways of actually presenting this information. So the first one, we're going to go for I had a test this morning, and I think I did well. After the... Oh, I killed that. All right, one moment. And we're back. Okay. After the... See if this goes better this time. After the test, the teacher gave us no article feedback right away. Oh, I need the no article symbol. How can I do this? I'll do it like that. Just do a 0. Now, for this last one, you do have the option of saying the. You could actually say either of those. So the teacher gave us feedback is perfectly okay, because we're just talking about the general category of feedback. Or we could say the feedback, the specific known feedback. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. So the definite article is also an option for that one. Okay, moving on to number 2. She wants to become an engineer, but she also enjoys art. Why am I suddenly discovering all of the hidden hotkeys of my browser, which I didn't know about? She also enjoys art. She's taking a course in design this semester. And I don't think there's any other option there. So we're going to leave that. All right, moving to number 3. We arrived late to... now. We could have no article or the. Both of those are absolutely possible. You know, Alex, I totally agree about that with the first one, and I actually thought about that. But I think we would need more context, which is outside of the example. So if we assume that we don't have context outside the example, then it must be a. However, I'm going to add the, because you're right that in the case that it is a specific test we both know about, so I've already established with you that you know I have a test on this day, and then later I talk to you, you're absolutely right that we can use the. Well done. And I had the same thought, but I was trying not to complicate it. So we arrived late to the class or to class, and we missed the first 10 minutes. It's not easy to understand everything when you miss the beginning. Number 4. You're going to love this. So options are no article or the. Education in my country is free for all children. I think the system helps people get equal chances. Okay, so there's the answers for the first part. Now we'll move on to the next part of education. We're going to do another topic later, but we're going to do another set of these about education first. Once again, I will read those for our audio listeners, and I'll read them with blank to say where the blanks are. So, number 5, I need blank book for my English course. It's called Voices of Youth, and it's available in blank school library. Number 6, blank students in this group are very friendly. We have blank project to finish together before the end of blank term. Number 7, I don't like doing blank homework when I'm tired, but I know blank practice makes you better. And number 8, I studied in blank United States last year. Blank education system there is different from mine. So take your time. If you're watching later, pause the video and you can really take your time to have a go with those. And if you're joining us live, then do exactly as you did with the last activity. And I'll give you a few minutes to complete those. For those of you who just jumped in and joined us, which there are some people, we are practicing articles. Feel free to go back to the start of the video where I basically lecture about the conditions of using articles in English. Right now we're doing practice. And as always, there will be time at the end of the stream to ask questions. And, of course, happy belated Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day for all of you mothers out there. Mother's Day in the UK was on Sunday. And I'm going to start going through those answers now. So, looking at number 5, I need... Now, I think the obvious answer for this one is ah. However, we could also make the argument which Alexander made before. We could say this is previously established in another context. So, it could be the... if we have some prior context, but probably the answer here is ah. So I need a book for my English course. It's called Voices of Youth, and it's available in the school library. There is a very, 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 very small and unusual possibility here of saying ah, which would mean it's available in one of many school libraries, and maybe I don't know which one. Okay, number 7. The or no article. We have a in a... It would be very, very difficult to argue this, but there is a small possibility of saying the here. To finish together before the end of no article or the. Number 7. I don't like doing no article homework when I'm tired, but I know that no article practice makes you better. Could also argue here for I don't like doing the homework. If we have the context of a course or class that we're talking about, then it is possible to say the for homework there. And finally, number 8, I studied in the United States last year. The education system there is different from mine. And there are your answers for part 2 of our practice on articles with the topic of education. Now we're going to move on to the next topic. The next topic is culture and society. You may notice that these topics align very closely with the topics which are often used for IELTS exams. And I have a student who's taking her IELTS exam today. So good luck, Yang, and I hope that you do very well. But of course, she's not watching the stream because she's taking her IELTS exam today. So these topics align with the topics which are often used in IELTS examinations. And that's the sort of theme that I try to follow with my streams in general. So I'm going to read these as before with blank, where there are spaces. And we just have 8 more of these to do. So these are the first 4, and then we have another 4 and we're finished. And I'm going to read those out right now. If you have any questions about today's stream or about English learning in general, get those ready because I will be answering your questions in just a moment. All right, here we go. Number 1. Every country has blank own traditions. In my country, we celebrate blank harvest festival every autumn. Number 2, my grandfather told me stories about life in blank village where he grew up. People in blank village helped each other more back then. Number 3, we visited blank museum last weekend. It had blank special exhibit about ancient tools and blank daily life of early people. And number 4, blank music can tell you a lot about blank culture of a place. I enjoy listening to traditional songs when I visit blank new country. So again, you have just a couple of minutes to think about those and get your answers in, and then we'll correct them. And that's the end of my coffee. It's done. You're not going to like this, folks. You're not going to like this. There's a trick question. Okay, so for number 1, we have a trick question. It's totally impossible to make this correct using the options which I gave you. So my deepest apologies. There's a mistake in the exercise. Number 1, we need to use it's or there. So it's and there are a class of words called pronouns, and they come under a larger classification of words called determiners, and articles are also a type of determiner. A determiner is something which helps to specify exactly what specific thing we're talking about. And in this case, articles are inappropriate and we need to use pronouns. So we need to use a different type of determiner. So this is the super advanced question where you have to actually go against what the question asks you. And by the way, if you're an English learner, you'll be well familiar that these sorts of errors appear in English learning material all the time. So every country has its own traditions. In my country, we celebrate no article. Or however, no article is the best option there. Could we say the? Yeah, you could say there as well. So everything's possible for that one. But my favorite is no article. And that is because Harvest Festival is the name of the festival, just like Christmas. So how we say we celebrate Christmas, not we celebrate the Christmas, but we celebrate Christmas. It's the same to say we celebrate Harvest Festival. We celebrate Easter. Number 2, my grandfather told me stories about life in the village where he grew up. Or but the is much better there. People in the village. Yes, this one must be there. People in the village helped each other more back then. Number 3, we visited or the. And again, this is the same thing that's come up many times. Do we have prior context? If so, there's a possibility of saying the museum. However, without prior context, here we must say museum last weekend. It had a special exhibit about ancient tools and the daily life of early people. Number 4, music, no article. Can tell you a lot, or about the culture of a place. I enjoy listening to traditional songs when I visit a new country. So there's the answers to Culture and Society Part 1 with an absolute blooper, which passed by my quality assurance team. I'm afraid I will have to fire them all. However, since they consist of two cats named Ginger and Pepper, then I don't think they'll be too bothered about that. Let's move on to part 2 for culture and society. And these are the last set of exercises we're going to practice. And after this, I will be taking questions on English learning. So write those down and get those ready. Okay, I'm going to read these as before. Number 5, I read blank art. Excuse me. I read blank article about how people communicate differently around the world. It said that even blank handshake can mean different things. Number 6, blank family is very important in many societies. In mine, blank grandparents often live with blank younger generations. Number 7, they watched blank documentary about Japanese history. Blank part about samurai culture was especially interesting. Number 8, I think learning blank language helps you understand blank people better. It opens blank door to their way of thinking. And if you are watching this video later, you should pause the video now and do those exercises, because I am going to give you the answers right away and we're going to go straight into questions with this one. So I'm just going to give you about another 30 seconds and then I'm going to give you the answers to those questions. You might notice that I'm speaking a little bit faster now, because as we get towards the end of the stream, we like to go into some real natural spoken English and we like to take things up to another level of comprehension and understanding, and see if you're still tuned in to exactly what I'm saying and you can still follow exactly my train of thought as I communicate it to you now over the wonderful, wonderful World Wide Web. All right, so here we go. Number 5. I read, same as before, an or the, and it's the same question that's come up a few times. Is there a prior context? If there is, we could say the. However, most likely the answer here is an. I read an article about how people communicate differently around the world. It said that even a. And for this one, I would accept the possibility of the. And they are both possible, but I think it actually sounds much better there. Number 6, no article. Family is very important, or the. In many societies, in mine, no article, again, is the best option, but the is also possible. Often live with, and then, again, no article or the. So all the way through, we have the option here of no article or the. Personally, I prefer this with no article. So I prefer it to say, family is very important in many societies. In mine, grandparents often live with younger generations. However, you could say any combination of this. So you could say, the family is very important in many societies. In mine, grandparents often live with the younger generations. That's possible. Or, the family is very important in many societies. In mine, the grandparents often live with younger generations. That's also possible. Any combination of no article and the definite article in number 6 is possible. Okay, number 7. They watched a or the. Same thing again. Do we have prior context? If so, the is possible. However, most likely option is the indefinite article a. They watched a documentary about Japanese history. And then here we have the. The part about samurai culture was especially interesting, or a. But there is better when we say, well, the specific part about samurai culture was especially interesting. However, I could present this as introducing to you a new unknown of a part about samurai culture, and then a is also possible. I definitely don't agree about that, Shimi. So, the family is very important in many societies. Actually, it sounds okay to me. Sounds okay to me. I can have a little think about what the subtle difference is between those. So let's talk about it. The family is very important in many societies. The family. The family. Let's talk about the family. It's like saying the family unit. And when I say to you the family unit, you know the specific group I'm talking about. When I say to you the family unit, you have this kind of metaphysical specific group idea of what I mean. Like, we need to talk about the family unit. You know what I mean. So when I say the family, it has that idea. And when I say family, it's the general category. Now, in material reality, those two things essentially refer to exactly the same thing. But again, it's about contextual focus of, do I want to talk in terms of general categories, family, or do I want to say the specific group of people that we call family? And it's extremely difficult for me to explain exactly what the difference is there, but I hope that's helped a little bit. I tried my best. All right, moving on to number 8. I think learning a language, or the, but probably a here. I think learning a language helps you understand people, or the. I think learning a language helps you understand people better. It opens the or a door to their way of thinking. In each case here, I'm putting the option which I prefer first. So my preference is to say, I think learning a language helps you understand people better. It opens the door to their way of thinking. Tetsuro says, in this case, is family an uncountable noun? Yes. It's quite interesting, that, isn't it? It's quite interesting that family can operate as an uncountable noun, but it can. It can operate as a concept called family, and in that case, it operates as an uncountable noun. So you're absolutely right to say when we say family is very important, it's operating as an uncountable noun. Because obviously, if we were talking in general and we meant the countable version, we would say families are very important. And we would use the plural. Because with countable nouns, when you're talking in general, you always use the plural. So you're absolutely right. It's operating as an uncountable noun. Well done, Tetsuro. Celebrate. Well spotted. Yeah, I think he's talking about when it has no article, Vitelli. That's the point. And when we say the family, how about then? The family. This is really taxing to think about. Is it countable or uncountable when we say the family? The pen is mightier than the sword. I think when we say the, in that case, I think it's actually countable, and it's like the sentence, the pen is mightier than the sword. But when we use no article, then I think it's uncountable. Because you can't say pen is very important. But you can say the pen is important or pens are important. That sounds fine. But you can't say pen is very important with no article. However, with family you can. And I think that's exactly what Tetsuro said, that it's about the no article. It's about the uncountable aspect. Wonderful. We are going deep. Okay, everybody, well done for getting to the end of this. We're now into question time. So, do take a moment to type your questions into the chat. I will do my best to answer those. In the meantime, you can download the notes from today's class, and they will be available in the link down below the video. And also, I will post that link now into the chat. Notes from today in the chat right now. We also had a poll to say, do you find articles difficult? 60% say yes, and 40% say no, with a total of 20 votes. That's a pretty good sample size. All right, so post your questions in the chat, and I will be back in just one moment. And we're back. So what questions do we have, folks? We have fancy an espresso from Sylvia. Yeah, you can buy me one. The link is down below the video. Family with no article is not an uncountable noun. It's an abstract concept. A concept like change versus change. No, but when it's a concept, it is an uncountable noun, right? Like when we say change is good, we're using change as an uncountable noun. I like change, right? Isn't that true? That when we use things as abstract nouns, then they are uncountable? That's the point. I believe. Lewis says, can I use the before the names of waterfalls, museums, stadiums, stations, and hotels. That's correct. So before on the slide where I said about the geography and I said that there were some other exceptions. So you're right that there are other exceptions. I'm not sure about waterfalls actually, but certainly museums like the British Museum, stadiums, it depends. It depends. Does the stadium name contain a proper noun? So is it like, because like, for example, stadiums. No, I can't think of an example with stadiums where we use the. So waterfalls, no. Stadiums, no. Museums, yes. Stations, no. And hotels, yes. So hotels, the Grand Hotel and things like that. So we use the with the hotels. So the, yes, with museums and hotels. Stadiums, stations, and waterfalls, I don't know about that. I'd need to think about specific examples. But anyway, the main point is it goes to what I said, that with place names, it's a bit weird and a bit complex. I think the fact is wrong, sir. Families are very important in many societies. What do you mean by the fact is wrong? Shimi, what do you mean by the fact? It will come as this: families are important. They make a society. When you say the fact is wrong, do you mean you're disagreeing with the statement, or are you saying something about the grammar, Shimi? See, this is where I said before about it's not about material reality; it's about contextual focus. So the question is, what exactly are we talking about there? When you say the fact is wrong, because you can disagree with any of these opinions, but are you making a grammar query or are you questioning the opinion? You don't know how to offer me an espresso? You've got a few options, Sylvia. Number one, you can make a super chat, and number two, there is a link down below the video where it says "Give thanks to Rich." It used to be called Buy Me a Coffee. Now it says Give Thanks to Rich, and it's there. Just like that. The other option is Super Chat. In the real world, we won't use that sentence. Family is very important in many societies. No, I'm sorry, Shimi. I have to totally disagree with you. I think that sentence sounds absolutely fine to me. Family is very important in many societies. It's good. It's a good sentence. You can say families are very important in many societies, or you can say family is very important in many societies. I don't see a problem with it. Family is very important in many societies. Family is very important in many societies. It's good. It's good. It's good, Shivi. Let's get Michael Swan in here. Someone call Michael Swan. We need to get him in here to settle this. Lewis says I asked another question. Oh, yeah, you did. He speaks good English. He speaks English well. Now, this is a question of traditional grammar versus how people speak colloquially. So traditional grammar is number 2 is correct. But colloquial modern English, he speaks English good is possible, but it's colloquial and traditionally it's wrong. And then you've also said he speaks good English. Actually, he speaks good English is fine in both cases. However, he speaks English well sounds better, but he speaks good English is okay, because what you're doing there, so this is actually like a different one, isn't it? This is like 1 star, different version. He speaks good English is correct in both cases, because you're using good as an adjective attached to English. Now, I think still in traditional grammar, they would prefer this form where you have the adverb altering the verb to say that you're speaking in a way which is well, and you're speaking English in a way which is well. So I think that the preference for traditional grammar would be the first option there, this one, what you called number 2. However, this one is also acceptable, both in modern colloquial English and traditional English. And this one, this weird one that I come up with, is like a common thing that people say these days, which is traditionally incorrect. All right. Sleepwalker says, on my teacher's advice, I spent more time practicing it before the exam. On the teacher's advice, yeah, are both acceptable? Yeah. It's contextual focus, Sleepwalker. So my teacher and the teacher can refer to the same thing. How do you want your contextual focus to be? Do you want it to be like, do you want to emphasize that my teacher, or the teacher a bit more? So the teacher, a bit more professional, a bit more distant, or my teacher, your personal teacher. You're taking some ownership there, some personal connection with the teacher. Both of those are correct. And it depends on your contextual focus. Families make a society. Is this logically correct? Families make a society. Yes. However, let's give all the options here, Shimi, because you got loads, right? So families make, can I change it to make up? Which means make up means constitute. Constitute. So families make up or constitute a society. The passive of that is societies or a society are constituted or made up by families, okay? So we can really understand that. However, you can also say family makes up a society or societies. And you can also say the family makes up society. All of those sound okay to me. That's a good question, Sleepwalker. And to be totally honest, when I was writing this lesson, I had to check that myself, and it is correct. So you're supposed to use the capital R because it's part of the name. So it's just like when we say like the United States, which, by the way, if that's part of a sentence, then you have a small T, but then you have a big U and a big S. Notice, big S on states. So it's actually exactly the same with the River Mersey, that we put the big R on river, even though it's an everyday noun. But because it's part of the name, then we use a capital. And same again, the King of England. Notice we have capital K, King. So that's how you do it. That's also correct, Shimi. Tenerife, one of the Canary Islands, is one of the most known hotspots in Europe. On the contrary, from the USA, they travel to the Hawaiian Islands. Right, let me just fix this up a little bit for you, Manuel. I would say Tenerife, one of the... Let me type it. Tenerife, comma, one of the Canary Islands. And well done for your capitalization there. It's correct. Mine was wrong. Islands, comma, is one of the most well-known travel hotspots in Europe. Full stop. On the contrary, people from the small the USA prefer travel to the Hawaiian Islands. Okay. Hawaiian. Please don't spell capital with a K. It's going to make my brain explode. Everybody loves Jerry and the Pacemakers, except for Everton football fans. No, it's not true. It's not true, Shimi. When I use family as an uncountable noun, it means abstract concept of family. So it does not mean one family. In order to say one family, we need to say a family, right? And you're absolutely right to say a family makes a society is grammatically okay, but logically incorrect. But that's when we say a family, right? When we say family makes society, right? That's okay because we are... It's okay because we're using family as an abstract concept. So we're not saying singular family in that case. Travel, not traveling. Yes, travel, not traveling. Any other questions, folks? Get them in right now. Or is it time to go and finish cooking my lunch? Why travel with the verb prefer? We're using travel as a noun. Like that. Now, here, we use travel as a noun. We used it as in a combination with the noun hotspots to create a noun combination noun. Travel hotspots. We often do that in English where we'll put two nouns together to make a noun phrase. So the first noun kind of operates a bit like an adjective. So travel hotspots. And then, why here do I prefer to say the noun travel rather than the ing form of the verb? Because it's consistent with my use of travel here. You could change it and have you could make the structure inconsistent by changing it and doing that. That's okay. But I prefer here to use the noun travel and keep it consistent, I think that sounds better. Yes, you could. There is music. You want it louder? Come on, everyone, we're cooking. What challenges are you facing in your English learning today? Travel is great for your health, the worst thing for your pocket. So tomorrow I'm traveling to Ireland with the official School of Language in Tenerife. Apart from the spelling mistakes, that is pretty much perfect, Manuel. Put a comma after so. So, comma, tomorrow, I, capital I, please, I'm traveling to Ireland with the official School of Language. I don't know if traveling with a double L is American or British, but I prefer it with the double L. Is it British? Let's check. Yes, British with the double L. None of that American single L stuff, okay? We like traveling with the double L. I think it would be more accurate to say that languages are permanently challenging, Sylvia. Experience is essential when applying for this job. I had a bad experience the other day. Perfect. That's exactly it. That's the uncountable versus countable. I think the questions are drying up, folks. Don't be shy. I much prefer questions about how to learn, by the way, if anyone has any questions about how to learn. Don't seem to get those anymore. I used to get loads of questions. How do I improve my fluency? How do I improve listening comprehension? How do I get better at speaking? I guess you can only answer those questions so many times. Oh no. You're going to make me sick. Don't do it. Honestly, it looks awful to me. Really? My mom says if you don't have experience, you won't get a job. Conversely, if you don't work, you'll never get experience. So what do you need to do? You need to volunteer your time for free for about 3 years, and then hopefully someone will give you a job in a warehouse. That's how jobs work these days. All right, last chance, folks. You've got about 30 seconds to give me another question. Otherwise, I am gone. Yeah, don't worry about it. So the weather is good and Easter has started. Hopefully you're all going to enjoy your Easter. Hope you guys have got some interesting plans for Easter. Does anyone have any interesting plans? If you've got interesting plans for Easter, then you can stick those in the chat. Oh, honey, thank you. What kind of things do you think impact our ability to remember things? I'll tell you. Thank you for asking my favorite question of the day. What kinds of things do you think impact our ability to remember things? Number 1. Brain glucose levels. If you're low on energy / blood sugar, you need to get those up. We have limited mental resources in the day. One thing you can do to get those up is I've discovered this lovely, lovely thing, actually. Let me try and just find it a moment. Can I find this? See if I can find it. Yeah, Dextro. Dextro energy drinks. This stuff. So if you feel kind of your blood sugar's low or you're coming to the end of the day, have yourself one of these bad boys and that'll give you a little boost. Just one. It'll only work once or twice before you start to get a blood sugar crash because you have too much sugar. But if you're flagging in the afternoon or evening, try it. Dextrose, as far as I'm aware, dextrose is the best form of sugar to reach the brain. So that's definitely important. Okay. That next one. Interest / emotional focus. So you need to have that kind of that pull. And that's why you always remember those emotional moments. You remember things that you're interested in. You remember things which you hate, right? We have strong memory for things which have this strong kind of emotional pull. So I always recommend that when you come across something that you have an emotional reaction to, for example, a piece of vocabulary which you hate or you love or whatever, then that's the kind of thing you can put in your vocabulary notebook and you'll have a good chance of remembering it. It's also one of the reasons why you should choose lessons or a teacher who talk about subjects which you're interested in, because that will maximize the chances that you're going to remember the kinds of vocabulary that come up and the things that they talk about. Number 3, spaced repetition. And number 4, positive, negative feedback. And that can be subconscious, doesn't have to be explicit. So actually let's put explicit, implicit. Doesn't have to be explicit feedback. So we don't need a teacher to say, well done. Oh, all right, you got it, green tick. That's explicit. We can also have implicit feedback, which is you say something and I go, oh, okay. And that is implicit feedback that what you said makes sense and I understand it. This is also the reason why memory apps can actually be quite good for learning vocabulary. Just remember, though, that when learning grammar consciously is not particularly useful for your fluency. It's only useful to improve your executive editing of your own English. If you want to improve the grammar in your fluency, that is a subconscious process which requires a lot of repetition and feedback. So if you want your grammar in fluency to be better, it's all about implicit learning. But when it comes to lexis, vocabulary, then explicit learning, as in deliberate memorization, repetition, writing it down, using it, personalizing it, that's the way to learn vocabulary. That's another thing that I would say as well, personalization. Make it meaningful. to you. Right, so we learned today that we can use family as an abstract concept. So now what you do is write 3 sentences which use this term once and have meaning for you. So I think family is an important part of our lives. Reason for this is because I have blah blah blah. Okay, you just write a couple of sentences which are real for you, that use this new vocabulary in the sentences. This is called personalization. So that's a good way of boosting your ability to remember things as well. Oh, time of day is another one. So there's a load of studies on this, and I think that it's something like, is it like around 11 a.m. or something is like the peak time of day when people remember stuff? I don't know, you'll have to check it out. Don't quote me on it. Look it up on Google, but there's something about this, about there's a certain time of day when you're more likely to remember stuff. Also, repeating things over days. So, like, you learn something one day and then look at it again the next day. Like, that kind of thing is very, very good for this sort of memorization. I think that's pretty much what we're talking about, Pachu. So, go refer to what I said before about personalization and following your interest. Vitelli says, how about late versus late to? Late for versus late to. They can't be interchangeable. I was late to the meeting. I was late for my meeting. I was late for the meeting. I was late to the meeting. He was late to class. He was late for class. I was late for my plane. He was late to the plane? He was late to his plane. I was late for my plane. I was late to my plane. That sounds wrong. I was late for flying. I was late for departure. I was late to departure. That sounds okay. Oh, there is a difference. I'm just not quite sure what it is there. It seems like it's interchangeable in many cases. That's okay. No. I was late to departure. Sounds a bit weird, but it's okay. It's not as bad as to my flight. I was late to the party. I was late for my party. I was late for the party. I was late to the party. Yeah, again, that one's alright. Both of it. I was late for dinner. I was late to dinner. I was late for dinner. I was late to dinner. I was late for dinner. I was late for the special offer. Ah. Right, I think I've got it. So I was late for means late for the purposes of, and I was late to means late to arrive in time for. Yes, I think that's it. So like I was late for the special offer. Like I was late for the purposes of taking advantage to the special offer, right? So that's okay, but we can't say I was late to the special offer. That doesn't make sense. That's wrong, okay? Oh, I was late to arrive in time for... I was late to the wedding. Yeah, so often, if you can say I was late to, you can often say I was late for, because when we say I was late to the wedding, it also makes sense to say I was late for the purposes of the wedding, right? But there are some cases when you can be late for the purposes of something, but it's not possible to say you were late to arrive in time for. Something like that. I hope that helps. One moment, folks. We'll be back in a sec. Right, what we got? How can we retell lectures? What do you mean by retell, Pachu? Can you ask that again? I need to know what you mean by retell. Of course, pure care. No problem. That's what I do. Negative feedback helps, of course. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that, Sleepwalker. I don't know. For many, many years, I thought that I was a night owl, and then during the pandemic, I became an early bird, and it worked really well for me, and now I'm back to being a night owl. And I would like to be an early bird again, because honestly, I felt much healthier, but it's so difficult to make the switch. You just have to commit to getting up at 6 a.m. every day for like 3 weeks, and that's how you make the switch. You have to do it every day. And when you get up, you have to look into the light. Look at the sky, look at the sky, like look at the blue sky in the morning and really look at it for like 20 minutes. It wakes you up. You have to do it every day for like 3 weeks, and then you're in. And I do think it's kind of healthier for you. But currently, I'm back into night owl mode, so I would agree with you that probably my studying would work better in the evening. A life without a family is a plant without a root. Sounds okay. Family, in my point of view, could be a support, but you need to get ahead yourself. Yeah, I'm leaving now. All right, Tetsuro. See you later, buddy. Hey, people who are late in the cinema or the theatre, whatever it's called in English. Such an annoyance, Rich. I have the name on the tip of my tongue. Cinema is where you go to watch movies, and theatre is where you see live performances. 21 days is a myth. Yes. It is, but I'm telling you from my experience that if you want to become an early bird, it takes about 3 weeks of getting up at 6 a.m. But I agree with you about that whole thing about 21-day habits is a myth. 21 days is just the starting point. But for me, every day, 6 a.m., 3 weeks, that's what did it. And then I was an early bird for like 2 years after that. Retail lectures means there's an audio on academic subjects like globalization spoken by lectures. There is an audio on academic subjects like globalization spoken by lectures. We have to retell what the speaker has said in the lecture. Oh, you mean retelling your own words? I mean, that's a brilliant way of learning things. What you need to do is listen to the lecture, take notes, and then use your notes to explain what you understood in the lecture. It's a fantastic way of learning, and it works especially well if you have a study partner or some other students who you're going to retell to. And in fact, in that case, it becomes kind of a pseudo version of a learning method called LDL, which is Lernen durch Lernen, which is learn by teaching, a method by Jean-Paul Martin, who I had the pleasure of interviewing a few years ago. well, that's a whole nother subject. I believe I have a stream on doing public speaking and giving presentations, so you can search for that. All right, one last try, everybody. Smash that like button, smash that like button, smash that like button. All right, thank you very much for joining me today. My name has been Professor Rich. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure, and I wish you all a lovely, lovely weekend. Do enjoy your Easter holidays, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.